go ahead and log out. Okay, give me a second. This is always the biggest pain, because I have to log out online, and then I have to log in under mine. And then I have to re-download it and reinstall it. There we go. And we'll call it Restream Chat Download for Windows. Okay, so we're gonna live a little bit on the wild side today. We got 2021.6.1 downloaded and installed here. So I did actually want to see, let me see if they have it up. I was looking for release notes here. Sorry, one more thing I got to do here. Restream again. Paddle Glitch, that's me. That's me. I just want to make sure I see any questions y'all have. Otherwise, I'm just talking into the void. Which is fun too, but probably not that entertaining. There we go. Okay, that should be on. All right, I can now see what you say. And I'm going to look at pixelogic.com. I'm going to say 2021.6.1. I don't see release notes on that just yet. Let's see here. Click it. Click it. 0.5, 0.6. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. I just want to see something real quick. Give me a second. Here. Edit. Make Polymesh Mesh 3D. I'm going to try something real quick just to see. Here. Okay. Okay. Launching ZBrush. Hey, Alex. Going good. Get my hands warmed up. It's cold in here. Okay. It should warm up pretty quick though, because I got my door closed and my computer on, and we'll get toasty. And I'm going to start sweating, I'm sure. I always sweat during my live streams because I never, ever know what I'm doing. Hey, everybody. All right, so let me drop this down here, and let's talk a little bit. Well, let me get my notes, because here's the thing. 2021.6 is new. I haven't had a tremendous amount of time to kind of play around with it. A little bit. I've got, you guys might like this. I do have, let's go to my YouTube channel here, go to videos. I do have quite a bit, not quite a bit. I have like 8 videos already recorded here. Do I not have those? Let me see. Let's just go to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to get to my creator page here. Videos here. Can I go to edit? Channel content. There we go. So basically, yeah. So we got all the curve and extrude and mesh balloon and mesh splat and stuff. I've already got those recorded. Of course, with YouTube, I have to jump through a lot of hoops. I gotta tag a lot of things. I gotta write stuff up. I gotta do links and do chapters and all that stuff. So it's gonna take me a minute to get those out. But we'll talk about those today. Hey, John. Oh, gosh. Yeah, it's early. Some people complain about bugs in 2021.6. Afraid to update. Well, update now. It's 2021.6.1. That was so yesterday. Get caught up, man. Today's a new day. So let's see here. YouTube. And then, so I like to have YouTube and ArtStation open because I always click links to those just when we go over stuff and people have questions about certain things. So I suppose let's start. Shall we? Let's hit the comma key, and I have a real love for this demo anime head. I think it's got everything I need. It's got a mesh with no subdivision history. It's and it's a face. So I'm easy to please. So I'm gonna go through here. This is my custom menu. If you want more information about custom menus, it's pretty simple to set up. And if you're also brand new to ZBrush, or you're just kind of getting refreshed and need a good place to start from, you can go in here. Let's go to my playlist channel here. I'm going to drop you a link, and it's going to be called this new intro to ZBrush. I might have a new intro to ZBrush series for y'all in a bit, but here's like, 60 videos to kind of get you started in the new, not new, but like updated versions of ZBrush, and just to kind of get rocking and rolling. Of course, on here in the playlist section itself, there's going to be all the updated, ZBrush for our 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, all the point releases in here, as well as in my profile. You can navigate the exact same thing. So all these things in here, like, oh, what's new in ZBrush 2020 or 2019? Click the What's New series, go up here in the corner, and there's a bunch of videos for you. So you can do your do your big deep dives on any new features that you feel you want to deep dive on. Cool. Is it possible to control the UV islands padding in ZBrush? Not to my knowledge. Cool. All right, you made it. You made a live stream, and here's where the real magic happens as you watch me struggle through live streaming content. So, okay, we were going to start with Curve Alpha. So if we go to BC, so we hit the B key to go into our brush menu, C to narrow it down to all the brushes that start with C. You're going to see we have two new brushes in here, Curve Alpha and Curve Alphas. Basically the difference, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say B, C. I'm going to grab both of these. So then in our brush palette, again, this is all just docked over here to the left. So you just double click these dividers. You have a little space over here. You can drag your brush menu in here. If it's not in there, I'm not sure what's in there by default. You can take that little brush white dot and bloop, drag it right on over there. And then now we have easy access to curves and curves alphas. You also might notice on my screen, my buttons are small because I don't need big buttons with full names on there. I can just look at I've been using this program a long time, so I can do that. But underneath preferences, interface, buttons, size, I have it drop down from 48 to 42, I think. I think the default is 48, now I'm on 42. So the buttons are a little bit smaller, so I have a little more room in my interface to put things, and I have wide buttons turned off. So if you've made those changes or you want to make those changes, you can go in here to config, store config, and again, that gives you a little more breathing room. And nobody's really complained on my YouTube channel they can't see anything, so we'll go with that for now. We have moving a subtool to the gizmo position. I think so. Let me see. W, turn off X symmetry here. My gizmo's over here. And let's see, is it this one? No, that goes to the home position. Reset orientation. You can reset the orientation to that. Maybe not. Let me think. Gizmo is in a location. I'm going to move my mesh to the gizmo location. I have to think about that one. Off the top of my head, I can't think. I'm live streaming. I can't think. My brain doesn't work good. I don't know. I don't think so. That might be a good Ask ZBrush question. Mesh from alpha with the flat option, but at least the latest update fixed it. Perfect. Hey, let's talk about that right now. So we got curve alpha. What this is it's just going to drag a single curve off. And you know what? Let's real quickly, I'm going to go in here to brush. That's a stroke curve thing, isn't it? Not brush curve. We're going to go in here to stroke. So whenever you drag off a curve, that little curve is controlled by a bunch of stroke options. And in fact, I'm holding down shift and open up all these little curve menus over here. And you're going to see the curve fall off is going to go from heavy to light. So that's basically the start of your curve. Woo, let's make this a little bit smaller here. Oh, right off the top, what I want to talk about is you have the new sticky hotkey. So instead of tapping S and then going in here and clicking and moving, which you can still do, you can now just hold down S and just move your cursor. You don't even have to have your pin on the board, the tablet you're using. So again, just hold down S and then move your tablet or your pin and then just let go. So, and then of course you can update your curves on the fly, which is always useful. And then we can also go in here and we can flip this horizontally. So it goes from your start to your end. I want it to go little to big. So I'll go ahead and flip it. And now we can look at this profile. So essentially what we can do is now any alpha you put in here, you can go and you can change this on the fly to that alpha. Also, you can hit the comma key and they threw some alphas in here. We got some new hard surface alphas that everybody has access to. So if you want any of these, you can double click it in here and it'll throw it into your alphas. And then again, with that alpha loaded, you can update it on the fly. Also, you can make your own alphas. Now, one thing, let's go ahead and I'm going to tap off to get rid of that curve. You can either tap off or you can go in here to curve functions and hit that delete key. And then once we've done that, I like to go in here and just do a quick hide point. That's under your visibility menu. You can tell I don't go there very often. I just use my custom menu, but visibility hide point, and then geometry modify, topology delete hidden. I'm not going to dig through my menu to find that, but you can follow my voice commands and check that out. So if we want to use my head as an alpha, there's a couple different ways. You can go in here to alpha. You can just do from mesh, and that'll just capture this alpha here. You can zoom this out. You can do whatever you need to do, hit OK. And now we have this as our alpha. And now when we drag out the curve alpha, if you look at the side, it's using our head profile. Now, if you want access to that alpha, let's go ahead and grab it again. So if you want to take this alpha here, we can go in here in alpha. We can say, number one, you can hit to mesh, and that'll just put it as a mesh here. But we want it flat. We just want that profile extrusion that we were talking about earlier. So I'm going to do instead alpha flat to mesh, and now we have a flat alpha ready to go. And if you ever need this for, like, you know, grabbing a silhouette of an object, that's how you could do it. Now, what else? Oh yeah, if you want to add this to more alpha brush, and we'll get to that. We'll get to extrude profiles later. So now let's go back here. So we have our head here, and we have curve alpha. And curve alpha is, let's go ahead and say delete hidden. Curve alpha is just one curve, and in fact, let's switch this back out to, let's use this one. There we go. So we're taking that alpha, and it's creating geometry, and then it's extruding it down this path. So we have a profile of the alpha and extruding down the path. You can update it on the fly, and that's pretty cool. And of course, anything that you would normally be able to do with a curve, which is, you know, go through here and you can bend this around. So let's do this. Let's say, let's go back to the star here. I'm going to make this a little bit longer. So you need to see that little rubber band that snaps back here. You can continue dragging this out. In fact, even go from the middle. You can go and pull it back around and update the curve that way. You can click and drag this curve all around. When it's red, that's when you can, again, hold down S and then use that new sticky hotkey feature, and you can make it brush size bigger or smaller, and then tap to update the curve. You can also update it with anything. You can just go in here to like BI, IMM curve. I'm going to hit M on my keyboard, or you can go up here and you can, you know, pick up here. You can hit M. I like that. I kind of like this view better. It's a little more compact. Choose necklace. Go ahead and update this curve. Now this necklace wanted a longer curve to fit all the little necklace parts. So some of them may or may not kind of update that curve thusly, but we can go ahead and, you know, drag this out and then again update this, and now we can update this one. We can go in here and say wide strap and update these on the fly. So you're going to see, again, you can either update with IMM. These are tripart curve brushes, but you know, we were using alpha brushes before. And again, that's just literally taking an alpha, it's creating geometry on the fly, then it's extruding that profile. So there we go. Let's switch back to brush BC, curve alpha star. There we go. So we also have curve mode turned on, obviously, so we can have a curve applied to our mesh here. And you can also do as line. So if you want to just drag a curve out and have it. Now, here's the tricky thing. See how it's kind of doing a little bend with that as line? And here, that's a function of this repel strength we now have. So if we go over, let's see, curve functions, repel strength and repel fall off. If you don't want that, you can just turn that repel strength down to 0, and now it'll just be straight line. So this is as line here. And we're just moving right down here. We also have snap, so if you want to, you know, have it snap to your surface, let's go back to brush. Let's see, BI brush insert. Yeah, we have this one here. Grab a little necklace link so we can pull this on, and then as we're updating this link, it'll go through and it'll snap to that underlying surface as we kind of pull it around. You can also, there's bend. Where did they move these? Lock, start, bend, start, bend, in. Okay, here we go. Sorry. You know what? We'll skip those for now. But elastic is also pretty cool. You can go through here. You can update this thing on the fly. Kind of pull it into straight lines. And then liquid, you can go through here. You can add. And then you can also go through here and subtract lines like so. That's pretty neat. And like we were saying before, with the cursor's red, that's when we can go in here and change our brush size. over here and update that dynamically. Now when it turns blue, that's when we can go in here and modify this curve. So you're going to see if now it's blue, I can make this smaller, and now we're just making the, let's turn off snap so it's not interacting with these meshes here. And we can go through here and we can modify these curves. We can make this bigger. Oops, that's our red one. We can also make this bigger, and now we can manipulate more of these curves here. And you know what, let's make this a little bit longer here. Let's go. And if that curve snap distance is too big, like see how big that rubber band is, if you want to be able to get closer before it starts asking you if you want to continue this curve, right down here is this curve snap distance. Just turn that down to like 10 or something. Now, when you have blue here, if you hold down control, if you start manipulating the curve, you hold down control, you can actually go through here and twist, and that's really helpful when you want to go through and do those hair strands. I use that a bit on the mermaid hair. Not Little Mermaid, a mermaid with red hair. When we were doing the mermaid hair in here, I use that quite a bit to kind of get that helix effect, to kind of get the hair to kind of twist down the curve path here. I use that. So yeah, oh, another thing too, you can start manipulating the curve, you can hold down shift, and you can start straightening this thing out. You can just kind of start, smoothing the curve essentially. You also have the functionality over here. You have a smooth button. I also have a snapshot button. So smooth is 6, snapshot is 5. So if you ever have kind of a little bit of a janky curve here and you're like, I want to smooth that out, just tap 6, and this smooth curve smoothness here is what's going to dictate how smooth that curve gets. And you just tap to update and it's nice and smooth. This snapshot function, you can hit 5 and that'll kind of store that here. Whoop, that'll store it. Let's go ahead and turn off liquid. And then now we can pull this curve out, and then we can hit 5 and we can store that. And there we go. Now if we turn off any bending, so bend end and bend start, previously in ZBrush, this was just a bend button. It either bent or it didn't. Now we have control over both ends. I'll show you how that works in a second. Here, so now if we hit 5 as our snapshot, we can just move this around. If we don't even have snap turned on, it's not going to interact with any meshes. And now we can hit 5 and just boop. So that's a cool way to do that. Or is it? Let's go all the way back to the beginning here. So now let's go back to, we're talking about brush curve alpha. Mic, stay on track. Yes, that's fine. Turn off as line. That's fine. Let's go ahead and flip this back around. We already know what profiles mean and how to swap them out. So we'll say flip horizontally, tap to update, and then now we got a little hair thing going. So now, if we want to start dragging off kind of hair on here, we have, again, this repel strength I think was set at, you know what, let's make sure. Let's go in here to brush. The very bottom here, we're going to see reset current brush just to get those default values in there. Repel strength is set at 4 and then fall off is 2. So now, what does that mean? So if I click and drag straight down, you're going to see instead of going straight down, which if we had repel strength at 0, it would just go straight down like you would expect. However, with repel strength set at 4, now it's going to sample that surface normal here. Let's go ahead and make this a little bigger here. It's going to sample the surface normal, so it's going to look at the head and go, okay, your normals on your head. So if this head was made up of a bunch of different polygon faces and they're all just kind of pointing in a direction as it kind of curves on the surface, you can see my brush kind of doing that as I pass over the surface here. It's sampling that and then going, okay, I'm going to go out a certain distance and then I'll listen to what you're saying to me. So let's go ahead and make our brush size a little bit smaller. So that's just a way where you can, and also this snap is a little long, because if I want to put a little hair next to here and I drag down, it's going to go blank. So not exactly what I'm looking for. Again, that's going to be under this curve snap distance. Just drop that down so it doesn't get so eager to grab, and then you can put one right next to it. So again, very quickly, you can just go through here. Beep, boom, beep. Now, this is curve alpha. So you drag something on here and you can go through here and you can manipulate the last one, but you can't manipulate the previous curves. However, with brush curve alphas, plural, go through here, do the exact same thing. And then now as I go through here, again, that snap distance, turn it down. You can go through here, and as you're adding more, now you have access to all the other curves available in here. So let's talk a little bit about, BC2. You know, I've made a big deal about having those available to me in my recently used, and I haven't used it yet. But we'll get there, everybody. So now we skipped bend start and bend end. So we have a curve alpha here, and with bend start, what that means is, so I have a curve here and I want to, and it's allowing me to bend it. However, if I start here in the middle and I start dragging up, you're going to see the only thing that bends is the beginning. Everything past that, see how it's kind of just locked into place? And we also have lock start. So when I start pulling this, that start curve, you know, with the curve start is basically where you start drawing and the end is where you end drawing. Complex concept. But when I go through here, if I turn off lock start, now as I have bend start here, it's allowing me to bend the beginning of the curve, but not the end. The end stays nice and straight. If we have bend end turned on, it's the opposite. So if I drag this up, now just the end is going to change and the start stays nice. So wherever you put your cursor, it's going to say, okay, at this position, everything past the cursor will bend. Everything previous to the cursor will not bend. It will bend. If you want to do both, now you can have bending on both sides of your cursor, and it acts just like if you had in the previous iterations of ZBrush, bend turned on. Of course, through here we can say lock start and lock end. So now both points are locked in space and they'll kind of stick. So you can see how these brushes are set up to be, and again, I don't want to lie to you, so I'm going to keep resetting my brushes here. BC2. So we have this one here. And again, if we want to, let's just go back. So lock start, lock. So it has lock start and bend start available. So we can go ahead and pull out a hair. And then if we want to modify this hair, it's going to want to lock that start and also let you bend the start. If you want to, you can say bend end instead. And now it's like, okay, I want to leave this alone, but I just want to kind of take the rest of this with me. But it's going to go with me because the bend end is going to want to carry that with us. So it's not going to lock. So we'll keep lock start on there, or bend start, sorry. There we go. Now we can kind of start putting hair on there. Sorry, I haven't looked at the comments in a while. We'll get there. Give me a second. So we have repel strength at 4 and repel fall off at 2. So if you want to kind of play around with what those are going to do, again, we could just kind of play around with it. So we'll keep repel fall off at 2, and then the repel strength, we're going to say 0. And we're just going to go through here and we're going to go pull straight down. And then over here, let's go ahead and tap off. We're going to do repel strength at 4, and we're going to do straight down. And then we're going to put our repel strength at 50 and pull straight down. So now, did we put that at 4? Yeah. So now if we go through here, and you know what? Let's swap out this material here, skin shader 4, so we can see the lines here. You're gonna see this one, no repel. This one, it went out 1, 2, 3, 4 segments and then falled off. This one went out 50 segments and fell off. However, you're gonna notice a little bump in there. It was actually, that's a cool feature. It was actually evaluating the surface as we went. So let's put this back down to 4. So again, 4 segments out and then it'll drop off. If we go here and I drag off and I go over this ear here, you're going to see it goes here and then it starts dragging, then it hits this ear volume and goes, oh, I'm coming out. However, it didn't come back in. Where that is, and this is really important for some of these brushes coming up, in the picker menu, you have closest Z set. So usually we didn't even have these in previous versions of ZBrush, but once Z is, it's evaluating the surface once on your brush stroke and then doing everything at that distance. Continuous Z, which was the other option, was as you're drawing a brush stroke, it's constantly evaluating what's underneath the brush and changing based on what's happening underneath the brush. Now we have closest Z and farthest Z. So with closest Z, basically if our camera is here, it's looking at the surface and it's looking at us and going, okay, as I'm going down, I'm going to evaluate the surface. And then as soon as I hit a volume, it's going to come out, but it's not going to go any further in. It's going to stay closest. Farthest Z is the opposite. So if you go up here, you're going to see it's going to evaluate the surface. And then as soon as it hits a far point, it just goes up. So closest Z is probably the one you're going to end up using for these curve alphas here. But I just wanted to bring that up here. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Let's see. Oh boy, I'm behind. If I miss anything, I always say this. If I miss anything, I apologize in advance. Cool. Yep, 6.1's already out. Getting up early is not fun, and staying up late is not fun either. What option allows you to have multiple curves at once, like multi-tube? Is there one? Yes. Yeah, that was the multi-curve tube. The curve alphas and multi-curve tube, same functionality there. Those are, I think, they might be just slightly, they're probably the same base type. Let's see here. We have curve alpha is base type insert mesh dot. Yeah, they're both insert mesh dot, but it has some sort of different code. Hey, Bertram. How to change the direction of a curve. So that's basically, if it's a it's easy if it's this. If it's just this, let's turn on apply frame and turn off line so we can kind of get a little pretty thing going here. This would just be a matter of, oh, you know what? I wish my start was my end because I want it to be thicker or thinner in the other direction. That would just be a function of just going here and flipping horizontal. However, if you have a tripart curve brush, let's see if we can find one here. BI insert that makes sense here. Oh, the zipper's good. This is a good one for that. So we'll go in here to the zipper. And so now this one is like, well, let's make our brush size smaller. There we go. So this one, it's like, oh, your zipper's at the top and this is at the end. And it's like, oh, you know what? I wish I could flip that direction. Well, if you build your brushes, what I would do is I would do 2 versions that you can update on the fly. We can do that real quick. Let's go out of edit mode here. We can, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take Polymesh 3D here, and we have all these beautiful IMMs in here. Let's go in here to Z plugin, and you don't have this installed by default, but you can grab it off of their Pixelogic website. Let's do that. Let's say Pixelogic downloads ZBrush plugins. I'll link y'all here. Sorry, this is going to shoot me to the bottom of the comments and I'm going to miss a bunch. So you can download stuff there. If you want to install plugins, let's go here. Plugin installation. You can check that out. That'll show you. So install them plugins. There's some good ones. And then you can literally, I mean, there's 2 ways you can do this. You get W, and then you can just steal them one by one if you want. You can also go into the IMM extractor under Z plugin, and you can say insert IMM to subtools. Now we have all of them right in here. So now this close zipper, again, we have one that goes this direction. Well, let's do, duplicate this off. We'll rename it close zipper R for reverse. And I'm just going to say, boom, there we go. So now, if I want to make a new brush, I can just go in here to B, create, insert multi-mesh, or brush, create, insert multi-mesh. Or since I've already got a brush set up with settings probably that I like, I can literally just go in here and say brush, down here, brush, create, insert mesh, and then I'm just going to append this to the end of that one. So now I have close zipper, and then close zipper reverse. So now when I pull out close zipper, I can go through here and I can be like, okay, start and end, I get it. Oh, I wish they were flipped. Well, I should be able to just tap this one and then reverse that direction. So I can go between these two. And again, you're just changing the start and the end here. Make sense? So let's go ahead and delete all them. You know, we got a bunch of stuff in here. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this head and I'm going to go in here to macro, and we're going to see if the macro delete unselected tools works. Yay, cool. So there's that. So now I'm going to take this head here, Control Shift A, modify geometry, delete hidden, and tap off delete that curve, and we're back where we started here. No, I'm not going to speak any slower. However, these YouTube videos are going to be, you know, backed up on my channel for all time. And here's the biggest pro tip I can give you all today. When you go in and you're like, oh, this guy is the worst. He just talks and talks, and he talks too fast. Right here, this little gear icon, playback speed, drop this down to 0.25. It's going to sound really awesome. And this is what I have to do too. So don't think that like, oh, I'm really mean because I make people listen to me slower and everybody's mad about it. Every YouTube video I go to, I still have to go into this icon and I have to go to playback speed. I just have to go to this one, because you think I'm going to listen to somebody talk at normal speed? Ooh, that's tough for me. For you guys, it might be different. So I listen to everything at 2x speed. Sometimes I wish I had a 10x speed button because damn, there are some slow people out there. But, and I don't need to listen to them at real time. Like, I guess rough. Matte Cap Skin Shader 4, best for poly painting. Yeah, sure, if you're painting skin. If you want to add a little bit to that, you can always go up here too. If you want a little bit of, so here's a wax modifier, you can crank that up. It's going to yell at you that you need to go in here to render, not yell at you, it's going to give you a little notification that you need to go in here to render properties and turn on wax preview. So now when you're in the material settings, you can crank up that strengthness. So you can see we get a little bit of a little SSS preview on your skin there. I'm not involved really. I just receive. I'm on the receiving end. I use the cool stuff. I get to have fun with it. That's my involvement, which is completely fine. When was 2021.6 stream scheduled again? Somewhere Friday, right on Discord? Nope. It's right now as it's happening. I guess you're suggesting one should create a braid IMM brush. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the original comment is, but in my, this is what I use to create braided hair. Not even for, it's probably, is it in here? It might be. I think I have a hair. Underscore ABCD. Can I spell? There we go. So if I wanted to do braided hair and I needed to go root to tip, this was on the IMM repository. You know what, for this one, let's go over here to our stroke options and let's do, because this is an older one, let's do that repel strength. So there we go. Now it'll kind of stick to the head. No, here's another thing too. If I want this embedded, so Paul Gabriel went over this, so I can actually duplicate this head off. We're going to go in here to transparency and we're going to, just so I can see what I'm doing, I'm going to go down here to my deformation and I'm going to say inflate negative, which is probably deflate, right? So let's go out of solo mode so we can see. So while I'm deflating, it's going to make this head smaller. So what I can do now, let's go out of here, is this does two things. Number one, let's go ahead and hide what I just did. So we have a hair and we're going to say brush curve alpha. We're going to go through here and we're making alphas on here. We're going to flip horizontally. There we go. And we're going to make our brush size a little smaller. So we're drawing hair on this thing. And as I'm drawing hair, we're changing that curve snap distance so it's not constantly wanting to grab onto other curves. There we go. So we're putting hair in here. And this is all fine and well as long as we're spaced out. However, as soon as I go across these hairs, it's going to want to evaluate. Again, we still have picker closest Z. So we got the camera here and it's going, hey, oh, I hit something, I'm coming out. I hit something else, I'm coming out, but I'm not going back in because I'm closest Z. So it's going to do the cascading effect, which is great. But you know, maybe I don't want this to necessarily interact with these hairs. So what that means is what I can do is I can tell it, if you guys remember from ZBrush 2020, what's new, there was the brush, the history extractor brushes and all those cool things right here. All the history recall brushes and the history project brushes all happened right in here. This is a really, I love this update. It's a really good update. And I use this all the time, is you can go, this point in history has these vert positions on the head, right? In fact, we can go all the way back to the beginning. Oops, no, we did. I forgot we deleted some stuff. So here's the head. I'm going to control tap that. You're going to see it's going to turn white. And now when I'm going through here and I'm adding hairs, I'm going to add some hair and then I'm going to add some more hair and everything's working exactly as planned. However, as soon as I go across, it's going to ignore those because at this point in history, it's looking back at those vert positions of the head that I stored in history and going, oh, he just wants me to evaluate that surface and ignore everything else past that history point. So now you can go through here and these won't interact. Now that doesn't mean you can't go through here and move these things. You know, you can still go in here and kind of intertwine them and move them around as needed. But you know, it's just it's a better way for you to kind of go through there and not have them constantly fighting each other. Alternatively, let's go back. You know what? Let's just do this. Bing, bong, delete hidden. And then we're going to hold down control and turn that point in history off. So just control tap it again. We can also use either a subtool. And again, this subtool is shrunken down. And it doesn't even have to be part of the subtool stack. You can just, let's go over here and say clone. So now we have this little shrunken head sitting out here in no man's land. We're going to take this one and delete it. So we have the head we want to draw hair on, and then out here we have a head that's shrunken down and smaller. We can still hold down Control and tap this one and store that point in history. And then when we go back in here to do our hair strands, you're going to see it's going to embed, and you see that curve goes boop, inside. It's going to embed, and it's also going to ignore everything except for that surface. So now we're embedding the hair, and we're ignoring the other hair strands as we go through and do this, because we have that history stored over here. So that's cool, I think. Of course, if you want these hair strands off that we're making, you can go through here. I'm going to hold down Control Shift, and then just to tap the head for visibility, and then do a split hidden, Subtool split hidden, and there you go. Oh, let's say add to block list. Okay, going up here. Okay, I missed a bunch. Apologize. Is there a way to change that brush size feature? I haven't looked in the preferences yet. It's taken me a little bit to get used to, but it is a lot faster. So I'm getting there. I was a little clunky at it the first day. After we installed ZBrush, how to copy my user UI or workspace includes shortcuts to new versions of ZBrush. So I do have in that original link I sent out, this ZBrush, Intro to ZBrush 2020, what's new, I do have a section, it just is for everybody else, not you necessarily, how to custom, somewhere in here, there it is, custom menu interface and custom menus. There's video 45, I'll show you, walk you through that. What I do for every major release, like 2021 to 2020 or 2019 to 2020, I will completely redo my interface from scratch. It kind of reduces the amount of bugs you might carry forward or any weird interface stuff that might not be compatible with a major release. However, if you're upgrading from like 2021.6 to 2021.6.1, all you should have to do is, let's see if I can find it. There we go. ZBrush folder down here at the bottom, Z Upgrader. Double click that, it'll walk you through, it'll install some stuff, and then it'll launch, and then you'll have the point upgrade, and everything should stay the same. You shouldn't have to rebuild anything. If you do have to install fresh from scratch, I would still rebuild everything from scratch. I understand it's like, oh, what a hassle. However, I just have a screenshot of my interface how I like it. I have a screenshot of my custom menu, and it's peace of mind for me. And it only takes me, yeah, it's 10 minutes of my time that I wish I didn't have to spend on it. However, it's also only 10 minutes, and it gives me the peace of mind that, you know, I got the newest install, it's fresh, I redid my menus, and then once you've done all that, you can go in here to Preferences, Store Config. You can go in here, somewhere up here is like load, I might not be recording this, it might be just out of the screen. Up there in the upper right, there might be like a save and load interface. I don't use those, but there's probably a way to do that, sorry. Also in here, it's in your ZBrush data, Z startup. Here's your config, custom user interface config, and then here's your hotkeys. So here's my hotkeys. So even the hotkeys, I'll go through, and you know, this one takes me 40 seconds to reset up my hotkeys here. I do have some custom brushes in here. So if I go in here to my ZBrush 2021 Z startup brush presets, these are going to load with ZBrush by default as I start it up. So I've got my own brushes in here. So now if I have that in here, and now I hit B, and then like for example, move Accu is assigned to Alt V. So put them in the brush preset folder, launch ZBrush, and now these will always launch with ZBrush, and then you can assign hotkeys to them. Hotkeys are easy. You just hold down Control Alt, tap anything in your interface. I can say Control Alt macro. I'm going to assign that to like Alt O, and then it's been hotkey assigned successfully. Then whenever I hit Alt O, I get the little macro menu with me. So that's how I do my custom user interface, like marking menu thing. Keep rolling right along here. Sorry if I missed anything, I apologize. What option allows drawing multiple? Is that something you can add to the regular curve tube? I don't think so. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure like what that is. So here's a curve tube, but you can use curve multi-tube, but I don't know if like, yeah, how would you add, you know, you wanted to have a custom multi-tube like extruder brush, that I'm not sure, but I have to play with that one. Tip for getting symmetry back on a subtool that's been moved around. Yeah, that's an important one. So there's two ways you can do it. Number one is if you're just kind of messing around and you're using, let's switch this back, and you're just going through here and you forget to turn symmetry on and you're using a Dynamesh, that's when you can go in here, you do a geometry modified topology mirror and weld. Now, I was working over here and I wanted to do it the other side, right? Well, this is when you can go into deformation mirror and then geometry modified topology mirror and weld. And as long as your mesh is down the middle, you can turn X symmetry back on, then you're back where you started. If you had a mesh that was more important, like we go in here to tool, and we'll grab the dog here, and it's already been, let's do a quick mirror, we'll make sure it's mirror, yeah. And it's got geometry that you like and all this stuff, and you're going through here and you're sculpting on it. Unmask here, am I doing something here? Let's see. And you're sculpting on it, and you realize, oh crap, I didn't have symmetry turned on, but I don't want to mirror and weld. Well, let's do this. We hit Control D a couple times, and again, I'm going to be sculpting on this mesh here. And it's like, oh no, I wanted this on this side, but I can't mirror and weld because I have subdivision history. This is where you can use Smart Resim. So it's like, I want to keep this side of my dog, and then I want to resim it over to the other side. And so now you do have subdivision history 1, 2, and 3. Now, if you're talking about, you know, your model got off axis and then you're over here and you have X symmetry turned on and you're sculpting and you're like, wait, what is this? This is where you can go into geometry position, hopefully. And you see X position got bumped a little bit, just hit 0. And now you're back to where you started. If none of that works, you may have to, even with subdivision history, go, you know what? I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to do a mirror, oops, let's just say delete lower, mirror, mirror and weld, hit X symmetry, Z-remesh this thing, project history back to where I started, and then you'll have a fresh mesh. You know, that's if it goes really off the rails. ZBrush radiation orders, when will we get the new content on 2021.6? Yeah, eventually. It takes me you know, I have a full-time job and then other full-time jobs and then even more full-time jobs on top of that. So this content here, I'll get around to it. It takes me a long time to go through 300. This series is 300 plus videos. So we go here to if you're wondering what I'm talking about. So Gumroad Cube Brush. Let's see here, ZBrush for ideation, this video series here, it's 300 videos, and I usually update it because, you know, some of the stuff is going to replace older functionality, like some of the masking, some of this curve brush stuff. You know, if you want to learn ZBrush from scratch, this is where you would start it. However, it takes me a while to go back in here and update 300 videos and move them around and delete some and record new ones to make it a nice compact series. So when I get around to it, sure. However, as per usual, I will always have the latest stuff updated on my YouTube channel. Here's ZBrush 2021, what's new. If you scroll down here, ZBrush 2021.5 starts around video 70. No, it ends at video 70. So here's 2021.1, 2021.5, and right around here is going to be 2021.6 coming soon, probably today, tomorrow, this weekend. Surface of the brain. Yeah, we can maybe use curve tubes for that. Remind me. Delete and insert mesh brush from an IMM set. Yes, you can. So brush, curve. You know what? We've talked about curve alpha. Let's talk about a new brush here, and we'll talk about that. So brush BE, we have Extrude Profile and Extrude Profile 2. So Extrude Profile 1, let's go ahead and, you know, we can delete this dog here, and we'll go back to our trusty head here. And you know what? Let's start from scratch. I don't too much history going on. We have too much history with this head. Double click it. Get our project dump. There we go. So now we have Extrude Profile, and this is similar to the alpha brush. So if we do something like, okay, we're going to grab a circle. So let's do this. BC2 alpha, and we'll just grab a circle alpha 06 maybe. Now as we drag this off, again, I'm going to go over here to our stroke curve fall off, and we're going to flip horizontal and tap. So now when we update this, we can look at the profile and we're gonna say, okay, yeah, it gave me a circle, great. However, when we look at the poly frame here, you're going to see that that circle it made is just a bunch of grid lines based on converting this alpha to geometry. So if you want more control over that, that's where, oh, another thing too, if I want to change this alpha, I don't have a bunch of alphas to choose from. It's not like you can go in here to the brush chisel rectangle and go, oh, look at this, I'm converting alphas on the fly. So we have this one here, and it's like, oh, I don't like that one, I want this one over here. It's so much better than going into alpha, going into import, grabbing one, or going into your light box, going into alphas, checking out these cool new hard surface alphas, grabbing one here, like so, and then going in here and updating. So let's see, BC2. So for instance, you know, we can grab that alpha and we can tap to update. And again, it just grabs the profile of that alpha, creates some geometry, and then it extrudes down that path. Oh, another thing I want to mention, as we're dragging it, as we're manipulating this curve, you're going to see there's not a tremendous amount of segments here. It goes doot, 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 doot. Go down here to brush modifiers. There's some brush modifiers here that also affect this. Like here's your tripart stuff and your weld points and stuff. You also have curve res. So as we crank this up and tap to update, now we're getting more resolution out of our mesh as we bend it around. Another important thing too, while we're talking about it, is, let's go ahead and, there we go, now we can see. So we have curve res here. We also have a max bend angle. So I'm gonna go back up here. I'm gonna turn off lock start, and I'm gonna turn on bend start and bend end. And we're going to extend this out here. So now, as we're bending this around, if we go back down here, you're gonna see max bend angle set at 45. If we put that at 0, this is going to give you kind of a tentacle feel. It's not going to want to overlap each other. So this is good for, like I said, tentacles or railroads or anything where you don't want it to like coil on itself too hard. This is a good setting for that. If you turn it up to 90, now you can wrap this thing up on itself all at once. So if you ever find yourself, this is a question I got asked the other day, if you ever find yourself in this situation where, let's do this. Let's do bus curve tube here. So we're doing this type of curve and it's going through here and you're seeing it's kind of like bulging out at the sides. If you take this max bend angle, crank it up to 90, now it'll allow it to overlap more. So now you won't get that bulge. It'll kind of overlap on the corners. So there's that. I was talking about brush extrude though. So again, BE Extrude Profile brush. So now let's do this. Sorry, I keep getting sidetracked. So we have curve alpha, we have that circle stroke we popped in there, we flipped the profile so we can see the other side of it, and now we can see, okay, we got that geometry. However, if I want more control over that geometry, I don't want just the shape. I want to know exactly what that geometry is going to be. That's where these come into place. And you can select multiple really quickly. So it's going to update the profile on the fly. Again, you can go up here and select, or you can hit M and grab it down here. So again, we're going to grab this circle and then we're going to tap to update this curve. And let's just draw out another one. And let's go over here to our, again, we want to flip that thick to thin. So we're going to go curve fall off here, flip that horizontally. And we're going to drag this one out. And now if we compare the ends of these two, you're going to see grid making that alpha, and this one, nice concentric circles. And all of these are the same thing. Tap to update this one. It's all built using very simple geometry that you can control. Now to answer the question, you even have these little circles here. So instead of, here's Johnny, instead of having a bunch of alphas, because you can do the exact same thing with this one. It just, this is very, very simple geometry. Whereas if we go in here to brush curve alpha, and then we grab that dot stroke, and then we want to pull hair out, it'll do the same thing. However, you're leaving it up to the machine to figure out how to convert these kind of soft alphas to geometry, so you may get a slightly unpredictable result, or at least not a fully controlled result. So brush, extrude, profile, where it's at, a lot of really cool stuff. And again, I love going through here and just tapping all these different things and seeing the different results you can get. And again, it can have holes in it, no problem. And like we mentioned before, do you want to delete some of these or add? Let's make our own brush. So we're going to go in here, Extrude Profile. We're going to clone this off. So if we go back into my brushes here, and we're going to say, oh, there's Extrude Profile 1 at the very end. Let's change it. So I'm going to go through here and I'm going to say, you know what, some of these I don't need. So I'm going to go in here to brush, create, and we can just go through here and say delete mesh. We're just going to go through here and delete, and it's like, oh, I want that one. I'm going to skip that one, and then we're going to say delete mesh. Beep, beep, boop. Ooh, I want that one. Skip that one, and then go through here and delete mesh. And I like that very last one here. So I've got a brush going here. I'm going to go in here to brush and, oops. Hold on, sorry. Brush, save as, and I don't need to start up a ZBrush all the time. I'm not using it that often where I need a hotkey assigned to it. So I'm going to go in here to ZBrush 2021 ZBrushes, and this is what the light box is. So I'm going to throw this over here underneath test. We're going to call this Extrude Steel. So if I ever want this brush again, all I got to do is hit the comma key, go to my brush tab, and then way down here underneath my test brush, we have a IMM Extrude Steel right here. So there's that. Okay, yeah, and if you want to add more shapes, let's go out of edit mode. Let's hit Control N. I can even modify a shape like we did before. Go into edit mode. Let's hit W. I'm going to steal this circle here. And on this one, I want to go through here and let's turn on, so Z modeler brush, BZM. You can use the new extrude, this one? Extrude move here. Oops. Again, let's steal brush. Go to your brush here, W, steal. If it's ever really small, which it'll happen occasionally, you can go into Deformation Unify, and that'll kind of make it just a unified mesh here. So again, Z modeler brush, BZM, hover over a face, extrude move, and then you can just extrude profiles out. If it's easier for you to work on a thick mesh first, you can go through here with your Z modeler brush, Q mesh, polygroup all, pull out a little thickness, and now you have actual polygons here. So if you want to go through here and like, you know, alt drag on here, which I should be able to do. Let's see here. Brush size small. Alt drag on here. Uh-oh. Alt drag seems to be a little bit off today. Oh, it's no big deal. We can go through here and we say, you know what? I just want those two polygons. So now I can go through here, Q mesh, polygroup all, and I can pull out. Boy, if it'll let me. What's going on here? I might have to restart. Extrude, polygroup all here. Pull these out. It's grabbing some really weird distances here. I was painting on it, but let's just do a quick group by normals. I'll always have ways around things. Watch this. So I'm going to go through here. I'm going to say control. Let's hold down control. Ooh, we're going to get into mask mesh project stuff soon here. Let's go hold down control, grab these, hold down control alt. So we just grab those, hit W, tap that surface normal, control drag out. And now we can, and in fact, we can hold control drag out and just keep dragging out. And then, so we've changed this profile shape essentially. However, I just want the front, right? So we can just go grab those front polygons, geometry modify topology, delete hidden. Let's go back to our brush here. And I want to add this to my lineup. I want to name it first. And then we're going to go in here to brush from mesh. It's going to throw it right there at the end. So now you should have, you know, same curve functionality, and then it should update to your new profile here. So now we have a name it on here, and then let's make it a little bit bigger. And there you go. Ta-da. So again, let's dump all this and we'll restart. And back to the comments. Oh yeah, so we'll do a brain maybe if we have time. What's your workflow for making hard surface game ready assets specifically in the use of ZBrush? If I want full control, just manually retopologize, rebuild sub Ds. For game ready assets, yeah, manually retopologize, or you know, I do a lot of sub D modeling in ZBrush, so go to the lowest, deleting extraneous edge loops, and there's my game res. Somebody who's recently run a carpal tunnel issues, got any tips? I use my tablet a lot more. I get wrist problems when I use my mouse, but even in Maya and any program really, I'll end up using my tablet a lot. It just helps keep my wrist up, and then I can use my pin. I may have to go into my tablet properties here. Underneath, I have middle click assigned to this back one and right click. So when I'm navigating, you know, for instance in Maya, I can use middle and right to navigate easier. But yeah, that would be my thing. Any way to be faster than a 2D artist as a concept artist for characters? I mean, faster is relative, and faster is not always necessarily better. It's just there's more tools in your tool belt. So while you're concepting in 3D, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and a model in the round that you can actually throw into Engine or decimate down really quickly. And this is something I go into, is ad nauseum the right term? If you go through here and you look at my ZBrush Summit 2018 and my Halo GDC talk through here, if you watch these ones here, I talk a lot about, just getting your idea out quickly, testing functionality and materials very, very quickly in a matter of hours, and then deciding to go through and do the final. So I would rather have a concept artist evaluate something that's running around in game, or a weapon that's in the first person view that's already has materials on it and is already animating, than doing a side view or trying to guess what it's going to look like in Engine with a focal length, and trying to guess what their environment's going to look like with the lighting and the materials. If they're doing a bunch of guesswork, well, guess what? It's probably going to be a lot of wrong, or it's going to be a lot of, it's a guess. So you're not evaluating it based on something tangible or real. You're just guessing. You're doing a painting in Photoshop, you're doing a drawing. And a lot of it could be wrong. After you translate that into 3D, yeah, 2D is faster until it's translated into 3D very slowly. And then you realize, well, all that speed we picked up on the 2D side, we ate it on the 3D side because, oops, turns out you're guessing a lot. Now, that's not to say 2D is bad or wrong. It's basically like, use 2D where it makes sense and use 3D where it makes sense. If you're only using one or the other, you're really missing out. Use them both. It's really important that you use both and you're not just stuck, doing a beautiful making of art book of 2D images, and then your game is awful, or it doesn't really, it's not as good as it could be, because the actual experience isn't me flipping through your making of art book. The experience is me playing your game. And if your making of art book is awesome and your game sucks, who cares? Artists will, but that's a very small audience. And you can have both. You can have a great making of art book and a great game, as long as you're evaluating in context and you're making good decisions, not based on only what's in the drawing. However, that's not to say, again, it's the same thing on the Halo 2 anniversary stuff. So, yeah, let me see here. Same thing on the 3D side. If you're only doing 3D stuff, you can iterate slowly. You get caught up in 3D. You're only problem solving using your 3D hammer instead of your 2D dental drill, or whatever analogy you want to make there. Different tools are better for different things. So use them both. If you're only using one, again, you're kind of hamstringing yourself unnecessarily. And they work great together. So there's never any reason to be like, you can only use 2D for this part and you can only use 3D for this part. You can use both, and you should. Cool. Oh yeah, IMM repository is where I grab that one thing. So if you Google IMM repository, it'll take you to a long list of IMM brushes that were made a while ago. Yes, mesh projection, we're getting there. So yeah, okay, let's start. Let's go back in here. We're just going to keep abusing this anime head here. I'll keep moving right along. So we've talked a lot about the curve brush. So let's get into the mesh projection stuff here. So brush, hold down Control, and now we're masking with our mask pen, and that's just regular masking. Control Alt will unmask, as per normal. I can go in here and you can say, change this to, drag rect. And then you can go in here and you can add an alpha. So you can go through here and you can drag rect an alpha out. You can change the focal shift. So you can get stars in here and then hold down Control Alt and unmask stars. You can change it to lasso. So you can go through here and lasso your mask, all that stuff. However, hold down Control, narrow down the mask pins. Now you're going to see you can make meshes from masking. So we'll start with mesh balloon. Now when we mesh mask, don't sue me, we have a mesh balloon availability now. And also some other cool stuff. That's another good thing for bringing it up. Under Preferences Startup, you can see it's by default, it wants to load up your latest project. There's the auto reload recent project. You can turn that off. Again, remember, go into config and hit store config after you do that, so it remembers. Cool. So a file that shows you all the hotkeys being used in ZBrush to avoid overwriting. Yes, that was the, just in case y'all missed it, there was the ZBrush data 2021. So see users, public documents, ZBrush data 2021, Z startup hotkeys. This is your hotkeys file. So now you can save that off and, oh, the default hotkeys. I see what you're saying. Geez, there should be, right? It'll warn you too. Like it warns me whenever I store my hotkeys for Alt H as my H polish brush. It says, hey, there's something assigned to this. Sometimes I don't know what they are and I don't generally care, but here's cheat sheet, arranged by category palette. Full list is printable here. There we go. That'll work. So yeah, they got some here. You can check those out. Go ahead and link those in there. And every time I link the chat goes all the way to the bottom, so I miss a bunch. Sorry about that. And then I miss a bunch. So here we go, getting caught up again. Possibly get really sharp corners with new print mesh project brush. I know you can change the focal shift, but the corners are still quite rounded. Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. So first, mesh balloon. We have our head here. And if I go to the side here, and I'm going to go and mask this out, you're going to see we have X symmetry turned on. So if I go up here, it's going to put it on either side. So you can go through here and you can make a mesh. Now, if you go out here and you're like, oh, I'm going to make a cool mesh, and it just masks, that's because it needs a point in space to start on. Now, that doesn't mean you can't start there and then use your space bar to move it wherever you want. It'll work fine, but it needs that. And again, this goes back to that picker information. It has, if you hold down Control, this is set to once Z. So it's evaluating that one point you start at. So if we go to the side of the head, or even I guess we'll start side of the head here and then start drawing. Even if I move it anywhere else in space, it's remembering that depth, and then it's going to put that midline right down the middle of your mesh. Now, if I want to put something in the middle of my world, so if I turn on my floor here, and we got that middle of the world axis. If you hold down Control and start drawing and then hold down Shift before you release, it'll put it in the middle of the world. So now we can go through here, again, hold down Shift, puts it right in the middle of the world. So if we're making a creature and we want something down the middle of the axis, you can do that. Just hold down Shift. And then if you want to put an arm over here, hold down Control, drag out an arm, and then don't hold down Shift, and it'll put it right on that point that you started at. However, let's keep doing this. So we're going to hold down Control. We're going to make a neck here, and I'm going to hold down Shift so it goes to the middle. I'm going to make a head, so I'm going to hold down Shift, and oh my God, it added it to the neck. And that's a function of if you don't move the camera. Oops, I forgot to hold down Shift here. Let's try that again. Here, Shift, middle, but you can't move the camera. And I'll show you a way around that in a second, but then hold down Shift and it'll add. And in fact, you can hold down Alt and subtract. And if we go in here to Subtool, you're going to see we have these three options, the Boolean options. Booleans are from ZBrush 4R8. What's new? You can go check that out, all the new Boolean stuff that came out forever ago. You have the union or addition, you have the subtraction, then you have, addition, subtraction, and then intersection. So you can go through here. It's basically, again, if you don't move the camera, Control, Control, and then Shift to put it in the middle, and then Control, and then Alt to get rid of, and then Control, and then Shift to add, and then Control, Alt, Shift, and that'll do the intersection of that curve. So there's that. So yeah, there's mesh balloon. And now you can change the Z intensity. So if you crank the Z intensity down, and then we hold down Control, you're going to see it's going to do, hold down Control and change the Z intensity. It'll go through here, it'll give it a little blanket of a mesh. Now, you're also going to see, as I'm dragging this line out, masking now has lazy mouse available. So if you hold down Control and go up here to stroke, and you have lazy mouse on, it's set to 30. So what I'll usually do is I'll turn this down, just because I don't need a whole lot of fidelity, and I can go through here and I can make my shape. Now, also, you know what, let's do this. Yank. If you remember, when you're using lazy mouse, it's following and then it stops right at the corner. If we go in here to BC, the chisel brush here, and we're using these things, let's hit Control D to get a little more fidelity out of the stroke. So in the old days, if you were in here and you're like, you know what, I want to make a straight line. So I'm going to hold down Shift, and it's going to give me a line. And then I have lazy mouse on. So stroke, lazy mouse. Lazy radius is set to 100. So it's a very long lazy mouse. And the old versions of ZBrush, it would stop about whatever that lazy distance is. That if it was 100, it would stop short of the end of the lazy mouse. Not anymore. So now you can go all the way to the end of your lazy mouse, no problem. So that's neat. Same thing with this. So now if we hold down Control and we're doing our mesh balloon here, you can hold down Shift and you can let go of Shift and you can do a little bit sharper shapes. However, we did add a subdivision there, so let's delete that. So again, here, Shift, 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 Shift. There's actually another way to do this too that's very cool, and that'll allow you to get, again, kind of those sharper corners. However, I'll answer your question in just a second, I promise. So we're going to go through here and we're adding this. Let's go through here, hold down Control, go here to Stroke, lazy radius down to 1. So now, again, we have once Z for this. So it's sampling one area of the head. So if I go to the middle here and I drag it, it's going to kind of be buried in the head. And of course, like we said before, hold down Shift, it'll shoot it right to the middle of my world. Very useful. So now, if I want it to actually conform to the surface of my object instead of just being, you know, sampling one and then being flat, that's where you go in here to continuous Z. And now it's going to continuously sample my surface, and now it's going to conform. So same deal here. You can hold down Control, make a shape, don't move the camera, hold down to Control and Alt. Oops, Control and Alt, it'll, maybe, let's see, Control and Shift. Let's try this again. Control, Alt, Shift, there we go. And it'll update on the fly, and it's conforming to the surface. In fact, this is one of my favorite things. For some reason, I really loved messing around with this. Let's see, is it the stroke, curve, functions, modifiers? No, it's a brush curve, sorry. Brush curve underneath here. Edit curve, was it noise? Here. Yes. So you can do noise curve, and I'm just going to drop that down just a little bit here. Strength seems fine. I'm going to up that intensity just a little bit here. And now we're getting, again, that splatter effect. So if you know where this is, you can actually, so that was with the mesh balloon. You can also go in here and you hold down Control, there's mesh splat. So now you can go through here, you can do mesh splat. You can go through here and you can even add gradients. You can do like a dark red to a, let's see here to a kind of a lighter red. So now when you go through here, oops, got to turn on our little colorize option. So now you can go through here and, oops, let's change this a little bit more different. There you go. So now you can say, hey, let's change this material. There we go. Now you can see what we're doing. So now you can go through here. You can use mesh splat to kind of go through and do some really cool stuff. So also, let's just go ahead and grab this head, Control Shift A, split hidden. Let's go ahead and make the subtractive turn on live Boolean, and now it'll cut into our mesh. And again, it's live, so you can go through here and you can use like deformation inflate. You can go through here and you can like inflate this up or deflate it down, or even go into your contrast brushes and make it a little more craggly. You can add this to, say, go back to our head here. You can go in here to surface noise. And you can say, you know what, let's add some rock to this. Let's crank that strength and that noise scale. And let's play around with this curve a little bit to get a little bit more of a texture that's similar. Hit OK. And now we're mixing that rocky stuff with that Boolean mesh splat. Cool, huh? But now that we talked about that, like conforming to the surface, let's talk about that a little bit. So, and also talking about the getting sharper corners. So, if we go in here, mesh extrude and mesh extrude profile, not profile, mesh extrude proportional. We'll get that in a second. Mesh project is very similar to what we just did. However, we go through here and make a mesh. It's giving us very clean geometry and a very clean bevel and a very clean midline. And if we go through here and we get, again, do a visibility hide point, you can see that's the result it's giving us. Now, just like you would expect, Z intensity controls how thick that is. So we can go through here and do that. You can go up here to the stroke. You can change your lazy radius here. So now we're doing this. And again, if you don't move the camera, you can, oops, we have live Boolean on. I'm not talking about that yet. You can go, as long as you don't move the camera. You can hold down Control Alt, and man, I'm having the hardest time. Let me say Control, and then Control Alt, and then Control Shift. There we go. And we can keep adding in. Oh, and also, you know, again, change your stroke. You can put in a little circle. You can put in a little rectangle with a little alpha here. You can punch that in. Let's go ahead and turn off colorize. We don't really need colorize on there. It was picking up the color from the alternate there. Let's see. Unmask here. Turn off colorize, I said. Am I going crazy? Let's see. Project. Demo anime head. Sorry, I got a little animated GIF that's bugging me here. So now we have Mesh Project. We're using this to go ahead and just drop in alphas. And again, you can also go in here to Kamiki. Remember, alpha, they put some hard surface alphas in here. And we can grab a cool one. Let's grab like this one here. Just double click it, throw it in your alphas. You can go through here and oops, you got to add it to this one. So you can add this one here, and then you can go through here, hold down Alt, and it'll punch back through. So now you've got, again, it's conforming to the surface. And if you didn't want to conform to the surface, remember, all you got to do is go up to that picker and say once Z, but we have a brush for that. We'll get to that in a second. Now, back to using our, well, curve is a cool one too, but we'll stick with lasso for now. So we want to continue just making shapes on this and adding to it. However, you're going to see, you know what? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about the other brushes too. I'm sorry if this is going to get confusing. It shouldn't. I mean, it's pretty simple. You're drawing out a mask. It's either, the picker is either continuous Z, which is evaluating the surface and kind of sticking to it, or it's one Z and it's evaluating that first point you click and then making a shape. So if we go in here and we choose Mesh Extrude, that's essentially the same thing we've been doing except set the 1Z. So now if I go in here and make a shape, it's going to sample that surface and make a shape here. And again, same rules still apply. So you can swap these strokes out. You can use alpha to go through here and, you know, change whatever you'd like here to update this. Now, again, it's just 1Z, so it's going to be flat, but you still have Z intensity in controlling the thickness. So if we go back here and we say, okay, oops, yeah, make a new stroke, crank that Z intensity down. Let's go ahead and swap this back out to lasso here. Now it's, oops, hold down Control, drop the Z intensity down here. Much thinner, and then you can crank it up to 100. Much thicker, and in fact, you can go through here and you can even do brush modifiers. You have a strength multiplier. So if you really want to crank it up, hold down Control, crank up that strength multiplier, and then it'll even overshoot it even more. So there's that. So now we have this, we have Mesh Extrude, and we have Lasso selected. So now in the Lasso here, you see, again, we have very curvy, bendy corners. Let's go ahead and drop that Z intensity down a bit. So two things here. If I hold down Control and then Shift, we're just going to go through here and we're going to try to make a cornered shape. As soon as I let go, see how it kind of rounds the corners off? Underneath Stroke here, you do have, let's go over here. Underneath our Stroke menu, you do have a, where is it here? Hold down Control. Modifiers, you have a Smoothness here. So this, if we turn this down to 0 and we do, I'm trying to think if I have the, let's do this. Let's go here and get up to 100. Here I'm trying to see, there's that, and then there's also, let's go in here to Stroke, Lazy Mouse. Okay, that's where it is. Okay, so as you can see under the Stroke, where is it? Modifiers here, Smoothness at 100. It's like I'm pulling this down and I want to go back out, and I can go slow, but it wants to make everything very curvy. If I go down to Smoothness of 0, now it's allowing me to go faster and it's keeping everything pretty sharp. And if I go through here, it was, what was it? Control Shift. So Lazy Mouse is off now. So let's go back to Stroke and turn Lazy Mouse off. The good news is the recordings that I've done do explain this better. So if I ever am like, I don't remember the setting for that, it'll be in the videos I release. So I may look like an idiot now, but after I recorded and edited it, I look smart. And It is two things though. One of them is the actual bevel. So let's do this. So the actual bevel, if we go in here and we do a drag rect, you know what? Let's get some sharp corners going on something that's flat. That's part of the problem too. Cube 3D, drag it on the canvas, edit mode, make polish mesh 3D. Go through here, and we're going to use a rectangle stroke here. Oops, got to start on the surface so it knows where to go. So again, we have a stroke here, and if we go in here and go all the way down to the bottom, we have mesh mash modifiers, resolution, smoothness, and bevel. So if I go through here and I drop this smoothness down, now I'm getting sharper corners, but it's still a bit rounded. So the two things is when you're dragging out a stroke, like so, this smoothness here is going to control it's going to control how sharp those corners can get, but it's also going to give you kind of a wavy line. Now you can fix this. If we go in here to geometry or subtool split mask points, you can go through here and you can be like, okay, listen up. I want to crease this edge right here, this corner. These are the two corners I care about. I'm going to crease these. We're basically putting in a feature. A feature is a polygroup border and a crease. So now we have a crease here on the corner and we have polygroup borders. So with that knowledge, we can go down here to deformation, polish by features. Closed circle is going to maintain our volumes pretty good. So now you can see, we can keep doing polish by features, closed circle, it'll eventually get there, or you can do open circle. This isn't going to maintain your volumes very well, but it's going to polish the hell out of your shape. You see you have sharp corners and this result. So between the stroke modifiers smoothness to kind of smooth out the stroke that you're making, along with the brush mask mesh modifier smoothness, that'll get you a decent result. So now again, if we go in here to rectangle, and we're going through here and we're making a rectangle, our smoothness is down to 0. We still have a little bend in that corner. So where that is, if we take this bevel down to 0, and then we drag this out, now we get very sharp corners. So we can go through here. We're not getting a bevel, but we are getting those sharp corners you want. And if you don't want square, just go in here and say, turn off square. So now we can go through here and we can cut this in. So now, again, we're getting our sharp corners because what's happening is, let's go here so we can see it. We're just getting a straight extruded mesh. However, as soon as we go over here to say geometry, crease, hold down control and crank up this bevel width, this is going to give us a polygroup and a bevel in between all of our polygroups here. So you're getting the exact same result as if you were to go in and dial in a bevel amount, only you control now exactly how big that bevel is. However, as soon as I do that, you're going to see I'm getting a rounder profile. So the bevel adds round corners and it actually adds a little bit of thickness to your mesh. So if I go back here, let's go ahead and delete these things. Hold down control. Again, we'll turn that smoothness up just a little bit so we get a little bit of we don't get that stepped result. Let's go back here to mask circle here. So here, I'm going to put this circle right in this bounding box of this square here. So with bevel at 0, boom, stays right in there, no problemo. And like I said before, I can always do a quick split mask points. I can go in here, hold down control, and then crank that bevel width up, and it can add that however I'd like. However, again, now if where's that back down? Now that bevel has made it extend beyond there, and it's given a little thickness this way. So that's why, if you're ever wondering, if you hold down control and you have bevel turned up to maybe like 0.5, and you have smoothness turned on, it's fine. And you're in here and you're like, okay, I want this to be in here, and it's like, oh, it made it a little bit bigger. And if you go in here to depth, and you're like, okay, I want this to sit on top of my object. So you go in here, and boom, it's going to sit on top. And then, okay, I want it to be embedded in my object. You go here, it's like, boom, it's sitting in my object. However, it's not sitting on top of the object, and it's not embedded in the object. However, it is. If you look at this closely, if I go through here and I say Control-Shift-A, and I do a split hidden, what's not embedded in the object, if I turn on transparency, is that bevel. It's extra. So it is technically sitting on top of the surface, only when you add that bevel, then it adds a little bit extra. This one too, if I Alt-tap this one, Control-Shift-A, and split this off here, you're going to see with transparency mode on, there's my bounding box of my box. You're going to see it is embedded in the surface. However, that bevel adds a little bit extra. So just be aware that the bevel is kind of modifying a little bit. So if you want sharp corners, that smoothness is going to help, and then also your stroke as you're making it, turning that smoothness down. It seemed like there was something important I want to talk about before we headed back into the comments. Oh yeah. So let's go back to the head. So again, we're over here, we're being awesome. We have our mesh project brush, we have our alpha off, we have our stroke. Now the lasso stroke is going to be that mask look that we all love. And then again, don't move the camera, you can add to this. Don't move the camera, you can subtract from this. However, not moving the camera is kind of a hassle, and there's a way around that. But you can also change the stroke to curve stroke. So if you want, so here's the lasso stroke. You say, okay, I want sharp corners, so you can hold down Shift and then let go of Shift. Wait, is it? Hold down Shift and then tap Shift again and then tap Shift again. So this is how you can do your sharp corners thing. And again, if you want sharp corners, really sharp corners, go in here to the Mesh Modifiers, crank that bevel down, crank that smoothness down, and then you should be able to get a little bit sharper corners. But again, you're getting that kind of alias line because it's on a curve and it's actually conforming to the surface. So I don't know, it's not infallible, but we'll put this back up to the defaults here. Something like that, right? So now, if you want an alternative to that you don't have to sit there and think about like, okay, Shift and let go of Shift and then tap Shift again, you can use curves. So if you're familiar with using the curve stroke, you can go through here and you can, it's a Bezier curve, so you can hold down Control and you have a curve. It's aligned by default. If you Alt tap once, it's going to turn it into a Bezier curve. So you can go through here, you can do nice curvy lines, and if you tap Alt twice, it's going to be sharp. So you can do sharp, tap Alt twice, and now when you let go, you'll get that shape. So both of these work. And again, as long as you don't move your camera, you can go through here, you can hold down Alt, and you can get rid of stuff. Oh, hold down Alt before you let go, obviously. A lot of this is user error, by the way, too. I've been using this a little bit. I'll hold down Shift to add. However, again, you can't move your camera. But if we have live Boolean turned on, we go through here, and again, we'll switch this back to lasso because we're more familiar with that. We're going to go through here and we're masking a shape. And then with live Boolean turned on, if I do that and I hold down Shift, instead of putting this in the middle of my world, with live Boolean on, it's going to throw this into its own subtool. So that's an easy way. Instead of masking it on, Control Shift Tab, visibility grow all, subtool split hidden, or however you want to do it, or Control Shift click the head, split hidden, or split unmasked. Instead of doing any of that, you can just hold down Shift, boom, pops it out into its own subtool. And you can go around here to the side, changing my camera view. And now if I hold down just Control, don't hold down Shift. If you hold down Shift, it's going to throw out a new subtool. But with live Boolean, if you hold down Shift, it's going to add to this pre-existing stuff. So you can go through here and you can continue adding. Now, it's a little bit different if we want to punch in. We can still do it. You're just going to hold down Control and then just like you did before, hold down Alt, and now it's doing a subtractive mesh. So now as we go through here, we can say Control Alt and then go through and punch through. Now I don't want to punch through my head. There's a human being under there. I don't want it to affect. So under here, I'm just going to add this shape here, make that a start group. And again, if you're brand new to ZBrush, you don't remember how Booleans work, ZBrush 4R8 What's New is the playlist you want to watch. So now we have a start group. So now it's not going to affect the head. It's only going to start the Boolean operations from this point down. So again, since this is already a subtractive mesh, we can just keep adding to that just by holding down Control. It'll already be subtractive. It's leaving alone our other part of our head. And if we want to add a new one, let's go ahead and say circle stroke here. We can say we want this to be additive now. So hold down Control and then hold down Shift. It's going to make a new additive subtool here. And there we go. If you want to do another subtractive, go through here, hold down Alt, new subtractive mesh. And if you want to keep adding more subtractive stuff, just hold down Control and then just keep adding to that one. And then also remember, you can also go in here, rectangle stroke, alpha, go through here, hold down Shift, new additive, and you can also maybe do, hold down Control. And now since this is already additive, just hold down Control and just keep adding more stuff. Now, if you're ever over here and you're like, okay, I want to put a star across here, and it's like, ooh, it did that. You can try going in here to your picker and saying once Z. So it's going to sample that surface, and then it's going to just go to that depth. Now, you may need to go in here and pull it out a little bit. Or alternatively, if you wanted it to conform to the head, you can go up here to the head, turn everything else off, and then you can just go ahead and add that. And then we go ahead and say, split mask points. Let's go ahead and shoot that down to the bottom, hold down Shift and bent down arrow, turn everything back on. And now it's conformed to the head, but it didn't, get wiggly all over that other stuff here. So you can kind of drop that in there, whatever you want to do. Oh, I forgot though, we had once Z turned on, so that's why it's not. Do over, underneath, conforming to the head, split mask points, shoot it to the bottom, turn everything else back on, and now we have it conforming to the head. So you can put a little thing underneath there. Okay, I think that's... There's some other stuff too, but I think... Oh, you know, one thing I did forget to mention. Hold down Control. Let's go all the way back here to Mesh Balloon. I don't know how much you would actually use this here, but under the brush curve, so here we are under the brush curve here, we have this set up again. So let's go to the very bottom here. Let's go ahead and reset our current brush. Let's reset all brushes. And then again, we go in here, we grab Mesh Balloon. So here's our Mesh Balloon. We're Mesh Ballooning it up. We're going to turn off Live Boolean. Regular tool set available to us. Now, if I go in here and I say, grab this curve, well, we'll just leave this curve alone. So by default, you know, this is going to be the shape of that curve. If I hold down Control, and then if you're new to this, you can add a point anywhere in here just by clicking on it. You can delete a point just by clicking and dragging off of here. You can make it a sharp point. So here it is kind of curvy. You can drag off and drag back on without letting go. Now it's sharp, and now it's curvy. So now if I change this profile, and then I go through here, and I put this in, you're going to see it changes the profile of this. So you can go through here and you can do a bunch of different things. So if you drag this in, you know, this is the shape you're going to end up with. In fact, if we go through and we do, I'm trying to remember, look at my notes here. What was it? Oh yeah, so you can flip horizontally, and that's going to give you kind of a border, and then kind of do the balloon as an inset. You can also do, we'll flip horizontally, you can do an offset, and that'll give you kind of a little offset ring in there. And then you can also do noise, which we already talked about. And then you can even do like strength. So this will kind of go through here and do, this is for that NPR rendering in your shader you can do. You can kind of use this, but it's also in here. So now you can give it, oops, hold down Control, and we'll make this a little bit steppy here. There we go. So now you get that step shape. So again, I don't know how much you would use that, but it's there available for you. If you're into it. Okay, back to the comments here. Hello, okay. We got 30 whole minutes. Cool. Thank you for the kind words, everybody. I'm glad the videos are helping. I know they could always be better, but man, it's this thing I do on the side. If I could do this full time, I would still probably be lazy and it'd still be the exact same quality, but I'd like to pretend like, boy, if I could only just, if I could only just be better and do better, I totally would. I'm not going to, but there's always that dream, right? Create these profiles with UVs being created at the longer side. This is constantly updated mesh, so I don't think it's going to have like a constantly updating UV, so you had to UV after the fact, if I understand correctly. Oh, that's another thing too. So a lot of this, let's go ahead and say here. So I did a ton when I was doing this type of thing. So I'd go through here on my Little Mermaid stage thing. Let's go back here to, oh, we didn't even talk about this. So here's the mesh extrude proportional. So if I make it this size, my Z intensity is set at 6 by default. However, if I make a very small mesh or I make a very large mesh, you're going to see when I go to the side, they're all different sizes. It's all proportional based on the size of the object here. So in fact, if you were to go through here and you were to do like, okay, I've got a very large object, and you can see it's very, let's change this here. It's kind of, you know, it's thick, but if we don't change the camera view and we go through here and we're like, okay, I'm gonna take a big chunk out of this. Hold down Alt. Let's see. Try that again here, and then Alt. You're going to see as I make this bounding box smaller, it's going to get thinner and thinner, and as I make it bigger, it's going to get thicker and thicker. So it's variable thickness based on the proportional bounding box size. It's staying proportional based on the bounding box size. So that's that. I was talking about this though. So I was doing a lot of, oh, you can also use all of this with radial symmetry. So go in here to transform. Activate symmetry. You can do symmetry across the x-axis, obviously. So here's x symmetry. You can go in here and you can do x, y, or z symmetry. You can also turn on radial symmetry. So now when we go through here, you can say, you know, drop in this and then drop in this. Let's see here and here. and it's all done radially. But also, I was going through here, I was doing like this, and then I was going through here and I was doing, what was I doing, like this? Here and here. What was I doing? Mass extrude. I was, oh, you know what? Maybe I was just doing, let's go to the top here. Transform, control, transform, activate symmetry in the Y, radial count here. It's not actually going to the middle. That's a little bit weird. Yeah, it's like bumping it out. I'll have to investigate that. But let's go back to our trusty head. Let's see, tool, project, demo anime head. Speaking of ZBrush, floor perspective, we're going to go through here. I was doing this a lot too, where I was using our mesh project here. If I'm ZBrushing, I can always add these bevels later. So when if I actually want to ZBrush this mesh and then have a bevel on it, what I'll usually do is just like we talked about before, underneath brush, mask mesh modifiers, I'm going to kill that bevel, drop that Z intensity down. I'm going to make my shape, whatever shape I'm looking for. Let's take this stroke. Control, lazy mouse here, lazy radius down. Or you know what, let's do, yeah, we can do this. So here is the shape I want to make and it's conforming to the surface, and then I want to update this shape. So I'm going to hold down Shift and then I'll hold down Alt to cut this in. Yeah, it's doing something weird. You know when it's doing something weird? Let's do this. I wonder if like mesh proportional was doing something, because it was like, as I was changing things, it was popping things off surfaces. Let's try this. Here and here and here and here and here. So control, mask pin, mesh project. So we're going through here, and again, I'm going to go in here to stroke, lazy mouse here, and then down here, mesh modifiers, bevel off. So do that here. So this is the result we're going to get, and the Z intensity we can drop down a little bit. You know, make it whatever Z intensity you want. Control Alt and do Control Shift, and we can do again switch this out to circle. You know, whatever you want your shape to be. Now I'm going to do a quick split mask points here, so we have this in its own subtool. Now again, it did a really good job, symmetry on all sides. So if I wanted to ZBrush this, it's across X symmetry. If you just want to do one side, that's totally fine. It can sometimes, I mean, it doesn't save you that much time, but if you just want to focus on one side, you can turn off X symmetry by tapping X, Control Shift drag over this one, geometry modify topology delete hidden. And now you see why I talk fast, because that's boring. That's boring to say 1,000,000 times an episode. If you're brand new to ZBrush, go through my boring episodes, go through my boring videos, and then I don't have to say that stuff over and over again. So we're gonna go over here to Skin Shader 4, and now we're gonna go to our ZBrush here. And so we can say, well, I mean, it's not that heavy. It's only 13,000, so we'll say half. I do want to keep my groups. However, the groups are already pretty smooth. I don't want to keep smoothing them. So I'm going to say keep my groups, but don't smooth my borders, please. Adapt to size. The lower this is, the more even, the same size the quads are going to be. And then we just hit ZBrush, and it'll go ahead and ZBrush this for me. And then we can just say keep hitting half, and that'll give you, you know, it keeps getting lower and lower, and then eventually you'll get to a point where it's okay, it's perfectly fine. So now we can go in our Z modeler brush, you know, insert single edge loop, hold down Alt, and kill some of these. You can manually go through and start modeling on this in setting faces or whatever. However, again, if you want to add that bevel now, just go through here and do your crease, hold down Control, and just pop in that bevel. And then if you want to go through here, crease PG, dial this in with dynamic, so smooth sub div of 2, so crease level of 2, smooth sub div of 3, give you a little bit of fall off on those edges here, you know, or if you want to tighten them up a little bit, crease level of 3, smooth sub div of 4. Then it's all non-destructive, so if you want to hit Shift D, so D turns it on, Shift D turns it off, and then you can go through here and just continue modeling. So if you want to go through and again do whatever you want, you can hold down Alt and then drag through here and then Q mesh through. Let's see if it's a little bit of an it kind of gets a little bit, oh, and it's also ZBrush. It's not actually like duplicate geometry, although we could do that. Let's do this. Also, so many things I can talk about, I always forget about. Here, we have mesh project, and we're projecting meshes. If we turn the Z intensity down to 0, now we're just gonna get a flat plane. So that's even easier. So let's do that. Let's say we're doing Z intensity of 0. We're going to add, and we're going to subtract. Now I can skip a whole bunch of stuff now. So we're going to go ahead and say split mask points. We've got this mesh here. I'm going to go ahead and leave both sides in this case. We're going to go down here to Xeria mesh. Here we're going to say, yeah, half, or you don't even have to half. Let's just dial this down like maybe 1.8K polys, depth size down to 0. We don't have any groups, so don't worry about that. And then we're just going to Xeria mesh this result. So now, oops, then you start saying half. There you go. It's like, okay, that's perfect. Now, if I want to add thickness, I can do that dynamically as well. Dynamic subdivision, turn smooth off, thickness up, and then we can even offset it. So now we're sitting, let's go delete this one. Originally, this was sitting on the head, right? So if I turn dynamic thickness off, again, D and Shift D turns dynamic off. It's sitting on the head, and as I start adding thickness, it's going to start going in, and it's going in both ways. It's going in and out because the offset is at 0. If I only want it to go out, I'll go to offset of 100. Now our original mesh is on the surface, and then it's only going outwards, or the opposite. Our original mesh is on the outside, and everything we're extruding is going in. So again, you could even go in here to live Boolean. You could put this underneath. You could say subtractive, and now you're getting a live Boolean feedback on that fake thickness you're adding. And again, it's not real. If you turn dynamic off, it just doesn't do anything because, again, it's just a flat plane sitting above the surface here. But that thickness is dynamic. You can change it at any time. You can go through here, add thickness, and we're good to go. Now on top of this, you can say, you know what, I like that thickness, let's apply it. And then we can say turn dynamic back on, turn thickness down to 0 because we don't need more thickness. And then I can go through here and I can say, well, what would this look like smooth? I'm going to turn smooth subdiv up to like 3. That's great, but I want to keep these things creased. No problem. Crease, PG, that'll crease your polygroup borders. And let's say you want more stuff creased. Let's say you want ZBrush, BZM. Oops. BZM. Go through here, and then we can say, you know what, I want to keep this creased edge. We're going to crease this edge here and this edge here. You know, let's make it obvious. Let's go through here and just crease these edges here. So now when we look at it, you're going to see we're getting those creases on here. We can even do like a crease edge loop complete and just put a crease all the way around this object. You can see it's picking up that crease. In fact, if we want to really see that, let's go in here to transpose edge loop complete, and we'll just take this and pull it out. So now you can see, oops, here it is creased. We can go through here and we can say crease edge loop complete, hold down Alt, and that'll uncrease. It's creased, uncreased, or you can even go through here and just manually crease one by one. So we can say crease edge, hold down Alt. We can uncrease an edge, or we can go through here and we can crease an edge. Now, these are it's very artificial looking. You know, you got these razor sharp creases. So this is where you can dial in a crease level of 3 and a smooth subdiv of 4. And it'll basically what it's doing is it's subdividing up 3, uncreasing everything, and subdividing one more time, non-destructively. You don't want to add real geometry because you always want to go through here and like make changes. Because I'm like, well, these creases over here are dumb. Let's uncrease those. I'm not thrilled about this inside crease, so let's say crease edge loop complete and hold down Alt and just get rid of that crease. We get a nice fall off here. And this is still too sharp. Well, all we got to do is drop down crease level of 2, smooth subdiv, you can keep it at 4, but smooth subdiv of 3, crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3. And this is why I have my custom menu. So I can very quickly go in here. Crease level of 2 is right here, smooth subdiv of 3 or 4 is right here. So then crease level of 1 is going to give me a very soft fall off. And as I get this crease level closer to my smooth subdiv, it's going to get sharper and sharper until finally it's razor sharp. Anyway, the whole point of that too was the Xeria mesher was doing geometry on the outside and Xeria meshing calculating the geometry on the inside. This one, it just Xeria meshed one side. I basically added thickness to that. So now if I wanted to punch a hole through this, it should probably be more successful. Everybody cross your fingers. So when I go through here, because the geometry was the same, now when I pull through with my Q mesh, it'll match up perfectly. So now it's a lot easier to go through here. You can pop notches out with your, again, your Q mesh brush here, or even just individual holes here and pull straight through, and it should match up easier. And that's way better than going through here and being like, okay, let's delete a single poly and go to the other side. Oh, which one was it? Was it these two? Probably. And then, oh, but was it? Oh, I don't think it was. I mean, you can still bridge them. You can still go through here. You can say like bridge 2 holes here to here. Yeah, they weren't the same, but you know, if you wanted to do it that way, but QMesh is so much faster than that. So now when we hit D for dynamic, now we've got those punch through. You can still run a crease tolerance on those if you want to. Let me see, crease tolerance is a 180 by default. Oops, there we go. So you can still crease those edges, and then manually, if you want to, be like, you know what, let's uncrease, you know, these corners down here. Or if there's extra geo in here, which there was in this one, we can say when we bridged it, it gave us an extra geo. So insert single edge loop, hold down Alt, and then again you can go through here with dynamic turn on, and you can say let's say crease edge, hold down Alt, will round these bottom corners out. So crease on the top, round on the bottom, and it's still a live boolean if you want it that way. Makes sense. Another thing you could do, go back to our original thing here. You don't have to rely on thickness. You can literally go in here and say QMesh, polygroup all, and you can just QMesh this out, and then you can say, you can even QMesh this out if you want to. Or you could do an inset polygroup, inset polygroup all. We'll do legacy. We're just going to pull in a little bit of a border here, and then we're going to say QMesh polygroup all, hold down Shift, and just pull along that surface normal, and now we have just a built-in bevel here that way too. So again, a million different ways to skin a cat. .5D, you're right, pre-drag. 2.5D might be the dental hammer. I'm not good at that, the document 2.5D stuff. Yeah, and ergonomically speaking too, that's why I like my tablet, because I can keep my arms down. I don't have to have a Cintiq up in my face, leaning over it all day with my arm in the air. It's just tablets seem to be the best for me. I can lean back in my chair and stuff like that. Hard surface drawing, yeah, I do. Yeah, I kind of did. I did a quick concept-y type thing. Let me see, is that on the ZBrush demos here? 2021.5. Actually, we can talk about this too a little bit. So this is kind of you know, here's my row-body bird block out, and this is nothing. Did we even? We haven't talked about any of that stuff yet. There's more stuff. What am I thinking? Z-spheres. So here, if we go in here to BS. So here's the snake hook stuff. So here's BSH, and then now we have snake curve 1, 2, 4, and 5. So if we go to the snake hook brush and we just use this on our Make Polymesh 3D mesh and we pull out, it's just going to kind of abuse our vertices. However, if we go in here and we have Sculptris Pro turned on, now it's going to automatically tessellate the object. If we go down here to our modifiers, the brush modifier is set at 0, so it's allowing me to dictate where this goes. So for example, if I pull just straight down, like I'm looking at the object and I'm in here and I just pull straight down, you're going to see, okay, yeah, it's going in that direction. However, if I have the brush modifier up at 1 and I pull straight down, you're going to see it's coming straight at me. It's using the surface normals to dictate more than my brush stroke. And you can split the difference. You can go in here to like 0.5. And now when I pull straight down, it'll kind of go down and it'll kind of look at the camera. So you can do that. But anyway, that's Sculptris Pro. If you want to know more about Sculptris Pro, I believe that was ZBrush 2018 was when a lot of this Gizmo stuff came out, and the Sculptris Pro. Yeah. So ZBrush 2018, check that out. I'll link it. So there's that. However, oh my God, I can't believe. I'm so sorry that these are cool. These are the ones I'm excited about. So BS1, BS2, BS4, BS5. So those are the most recently used brushes. So it's a snake curve 1, 2, 4, and 5. So snake curve 1, we drag a curve out, or hell, let's do this. Let's do BS. H is snake hook. So we have snake hook and it's working, right? So we can make our brush size bigger. And the cursor's purple because we have Sculptris Pro. It's an indicator that we have Sculptris Pro turned on. However, for any brush you do, you can go into stroke and you can say it's legal. It'll let you do this. You won't get arrested. You can say turn on curve mode for any brush, and now you have your Sculptris snake hook brush assigned to a curve. You can do the same with the standard brush, any brush. You can just add this to it. So there's that. Now, we do have better brushes set up for this exact type of scenario here. So this is where we get into brush, snake hook 1. So now if we drag this curve out, and we, let's do it in symmetry because it looks cooler. So we're going to drag this curve out, and I'm going to start pulling. You're going to see it's going to be heavier on the top, and it's going to kind of swing around to the front, and then it's going to start getting frilly. So this is all controllable. So if I have this curve here, and I go down here to my brush curve setting here. Oh no, it's a stroke curve setting, sorry. I have my curve fall off. So again, if you remember back from when we were talking about curves, we have a start point is where you start, and then an end point is where you end. That makes sense? That corresponds exactly to the start point up here is heavy intensity, and we have intensity turned on, and then start point is down low, it's going to be less intensity. So that's what's controlling this. So if I flip this horizontally, now you're going to see the bottom pull up because that's the end point. End point is heavy, start point is light, and now it's going to go this way. If you turn intensity off, now it's just going to pull a straight line out. Now, this straight line, you can see it's being pulled out, and it's straight and straight, and then all of a sudden those surface normals start taking over, and it starts crisscrossing over. What you can do is down here where it says direction projection, if you turn that down to 0, that's going to allow you to have this just come out straight for a little bit longer. It's going to not let that surface normals take over that quickly. So if we take this direction projection, crank it up to 2, now as soon as it starts going, it's going to take over immediately, and it starts going haywire. It starts going nuts. Now, that's not to say it's a bad thing. It's a very cool thing, actually. But this is where you can control that. Position projection, you can drop this down to 0, and it'll just kind of pull along the surface, and then you can crank it up to 2, and it'll really start going haywire early, so you can use that as well. All of these brushes, though, I think have that default set at 1. So if you go through here, you're going to see position projections all set at 1 for all of these, and then it's what changes is the direction projection for this really wavy one bumps up to 1. So here's a really wavy one. This one's at 0, so again, it stays pretty uniform, and we turn intensity off, but if you turn that back on, now it'll kind of swoop out. And then this one here, direction projection is at 0, but you're going to see this curve changed. So now, instead of it just being flat or going one side or the other, now when you pull it out, it'll be nice and rounded. So again, if you take this intensity off and you start pulling this up, speaking of mechs, let's go ahead and make our brush size a little bit bigger. So we can go through here and we can start pulling off things here. Projection, let's go back to 1. I can see this being really useful. And in fact, let's tap off to get rid of that curve. Let's do this. Let's hold on Control Shift. We're going to go in here to, not slice. We're going to go in here to clip curve. We have X symmetry turned on. We're going to do this. And you know what? Let's start doing some mechy stuff. We're going to clip circle, hold down Alt, and start carving some of the stuff in. We can even have Dynamesh turned on, turn blur down to 0, doing Dynamesh this out, and start smoothing, whatever. And then we want to go through here and start pulling stuff off. So we're going to hold down, not going to hold down anything because this is just a brush. We have snake curve brush set here. We're going to turn that intensity off. So now when I pull through here and we have Sculptors Pro, it'll just pull out a straight line. Let's make our brush size a little bit smaller. Off here. That's too small. Sorry, I'm getting used to this holding down S. That's the biggest problem with me is old dog learning new tricks. So we can pull this straight out, and then we can go to the top, and we can pull this straight out. We can go over here to the side. We can pull this straight out. And again, if we ever want to go back to, clip curve or whatever, we can go through here, and we can, probably would want to mask first, but you can go through here and just start clipping stuff in. You can go through here, even with the mesh projection stuff we were doing earlier, you can go through here and you can clean up any of this. So again, if you wanted to go back to that mesh projection brush we were using and say, you know what, I want to put a little something on here. Let's go ahead and add those. No, this is fine. And I want to say, split mask points here. And I want to go through here. Always remember you can go through and you can start clipping, whatever shape that you wanted to out of these. Oops. There you go. Start clipping those shapes. Of course, we had Z intensity down to 0, so we didn't have any thickness. But again, you can Z mesh this, whatever you want to do. So there's the curve stuff. We'll go back to where I can't believe I forgot to do that. Polymesh 3D. So that's basically it. You have these things here, so you can go through here and let's do this. Let's do brush. Reset all brushes. Brush BS1, BS2, BS4, BS5. Now they're all recently used, and now I can go through here. I can select 2, and now we can do you know, cool creaturey stuff. Start pulling this out and start, you know, pulling this out. You can also pull in, so you can go through in first, and then you can start pulling out and around. So very, very quickly you can come up with some cool stuff. Also, I got to do it. I got to go in here to my demo anime head. And you know what? Let's do this. Let's go in here to our mesh splat. Let's crank up that Z intensity just a little bit. Go through here and we'll go ahead and splat some mesh on here. And this can be also a separate mesh here. So again, we can go in here and split hidden. Go back to our brush curve. I guess the snake hook is as good as any. And go through here, make our brush size smaller. Go to the, there we go. Make our brush size smaller. And then you can go through here and you can start pulling out these little frilly things as well. So very quickly, you can start going through here and you can start seeing little shapes. You can go through and start making cool creatures. Of course, you can Dynamesh all this together. I just had this all separate as kind of going through and doing little creaturey stuff, but feel free, have fun with that. And again, like I said, you can merge these both together. You can Dynamesh this result here together. And then again, you can just continue kind of playing around. So like we were doing before, you can go through here. You can start making some shapes here and it'll start flowing down and eventually it'll get wiggly, but you can do this. You can start that way and then you can switch brushes. Let's make our brush size a little bit bigger. And then we can switch to our, you know, the kind of frilly one. So we want us to put some frills on maybe just the upper part of this ear. So we're just going to drag this curve here. And then as we pull out, this is where it's going to start getting frilly. And just like we were doing before, you can go back to the snake curve 1 and you can say, okay, I know the start is going to be a little heavier. And then if you want to go ahead and say, go into that stroke curve and say flip horizontal, you can, you know, just grab another section of this line and you can pull it around the other direction. You know, so you have an awful lot of, you have a surprising amount of control. It doesn't look like it, but you have a surprising amount of control over these brushes and doing cool stuff with them. Okay, I'm way behind. I apologize, everybody. I probably missed a ton of questions. What CPU is good for a new ZBrush PC is wondering what CPU motherboard currently using. So that, if you want to know, we can go back here. Workstation. I have my old workstation set up here. Here's my updated one. I'm on the 3970X. Works like a dream. If you want to see the specs, you can go down here. And, you know, I have the legacy specs on the other one too. But I've had every generation of Threadripper ever since the 1950X, 2990WX, and then the 3970X. So Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3 Threadrippers have all been not only amazing on the ZBrush side, but also great for other things I do that need a lot of CPU power. Like when I want to go in here and I want to say, you know what, let's do this one. We were talking about that other one. Yeah, let's do that one. Hold on just a second. Load tool, ZBrush demo, legacy, 2021.5. So we were talking about the bird robo stuff, so like the hard surface stuff. So this will be good for hard surface as well. But you can see this is kind of the concept block out, and then the block out refine. Then we separated these things, refine the forms, and then this is the final here. Again, still a concept mesh. There's nothing. There's not a, I mean, you can, it's some of the sub-D modeled up here. But again, just a very quick concept model sketch just to kind of get your idea out in the round. Now, if you wanted to do a really quick render, we only got 6 minutes left, but I mean, I don't have to go anywhere necessarily. I do have to start my day though. I'm back at work today, boo. So I can go in here to render, external render keyshot, and I can just throw this over to keyshot. So in Keyshot and iRay, those will use GPU. They'll actually use a lot of your CPU as well. So we can go through here. That'll go ahead and load this up. And sorry, this is probably a little bit out of your frame. You can probably see most of it, right? It came in at a weird size. Yeah, you can see most of it. So now we have our bird mech in here. We can go ahead and change the environment here. So yeah, this is where, if we go through here and we start, you know, this is where CPU kicks in hard. Yeah, so there's that. Cool. Again, sorry if I missed stuff, man. Snake Curve 3, that's a good question. They did skip 3 on purpose, I think. In the documentation, they say 1, 2, 4, and 5. I wonder if 3 was, there was an assignment or something. How do you increase corners of dynamic thickness? That can be a little trickier. I know what you're saying though. If we go in here to the plane, 3D, edit, make polymesh 3D, go in here and we have dynamic. We got a little bit of thickness on here. You're going to see that kind of rounds the corners out. If you do and it's got the creased open borders, we have post sub div, and you want sub D smoothness, but you do want sharper corners. And we do have it creased, right? I felt like there was a way to do it, but I can't remember now. Good question. Cool. Yeah, you could, I think you could make a skirt. Yes. Splash me, yeah, exactly. Cool. Yeah, so as far as like holding, I do like holding down S better. You just hold it down and I literally don't have to put my pen on the surface. It does, I mean, I've got 15 years of muscle memory built up on that, so it takes me a minute. But I am getting faster. So now, yeah, just holding down S and moving is a little bit faster. Oh, that's another thing too. If you did want to do, let's say cylinder, make polymesh 3D. So again, we go through here, we got our mesh balloon here, and we're going through here. We'll hold down shift to throw it to the middle. Remember also, let's go ahead and say split mask points here. If you want to, real quick, half ZBrush. We got the shape. We can very quickly ZBrush. Actually, let's turn on X symmetry because it is symmetrical on the X axis here, right? Yeah. ZBrush half, tab size down to 0. We'll go ahead and just ZBrush this really quickly. And if you wanted to, let's do this. Let's say, or let's go down the other way. So we're going to go ahead and mask this here, and then we're going to go in here to dynamics. And actually, that's not even down far enough. Half. I want low. There we go. So now I have even more control. So I can go through here. I can turn on dynamic, or I can hit Control D to get actual subdivisions. We can go ahead and mask the top of this off here. Let's go down here. Here we go. We have that. And then we have gravity turned on. We can even do a little bit of expand if you wanted to, but I think if we turn this gravity strength down, and we'll go here, and we'll run the simulation here. Now we can start, you know, doing dynamic cloth on all this stuff too. So remember, all the cool, like dynamic cloth was a really, I think that was this release, 2021. So if you go here to 2021, what's new? All of that dynamic cloth is all in here. There's a bunch of demo videos, tons of 2021 is a huge release. We're still doing releases for 2021. So, and by we, I mean Pixelogic. So remember that. Trying to find a way to have texture map exported in a way I could have actually print a good quality texture on fabric that we've made into the inflatables. I mean, once you UV something, so for example, we have this kind of cloth thing here, and we're subdividing it up, and we're still, we can even do this. We can go through here, we can say BT transpose cloth here. So now as we go through here and make changes to our cloth, let's not do that. You know, we're getting some cloth stuff going. However, if we want to go through here and UV this, one way we can do that is we can go through here and we can say Z plugin, what was it? UV master. I want to work on a clone. So it's just going to drop that down to the lowest subdivision level. I can literally just go through here and just say unwrap. I can turn symmetry on, I suppose. And then we can say flatten. This is our UV map here. So now I can copy these UVs. We can hop back over to our mesh we're working on. We can paste our UVs. And now that we have that, we can go through here and we can say texture map. No, we can say UV map. We can morph our UV out. And this is going to be where our mesh is. And then we can literally go in here. And you know what? Let's just go in here to texture, import. I'm going to drop this down just in case. I have a bad habit of clicking on bad directories. So we're going to go in here to ZBrush demo. Legacy, this was ZBrush 2020. This is where we were doing the fabric pattern stuff, right? Yeah. Good enough. So here we can add this to our scene here. We can scale this down just a little bit. We can hold down Shift and we can tile it more or less. And then now we can actually paint on our flattened objects. We're going here to RGB. We can turn off X symmetry and go through here. Oops. Turn on RGB, turn off lazy mouse. You don't have to turn off lazy mouse, just a bit easier. So you can paint right on there and then turn off polyframe. So you know what, let's unmorph this UV. We don't have quite enough resolution. So hit Control D one more time. Hell, let's hit Control D a couple more times. That's fine. Then we can morph our UV map, morph UV here. And not only can you paint on your morph UV, let's go ahead and turn off our poly paint here. You can also sculpt on it. So if we go in our standard brush here, we can sculpt on our mesh while it's flattened, which is very useful for some stuff. And then also you can go in here with RGB again, go through here, paint on there, and then when you morph it back here, yep, it'll wrap around like so. Oh, now I'm itchy. Cool. Alrighty, that's it. It's 8 o'clock. I gotta go to work. Ugh. When I start modeling with primitive forms, I have to dynamesh in the beginning so I have smoothness. If you're sculpting, if you want constantly updated meshes, yes. But if you want to have more controllable meshes, I would say keep the subdivision lower. It'll be easier to smooth with your smooth brush. Oh, good point. You don't have to wait to get a threader before you use ZBrush. ZBrush will run on a toaster. You can use ZBrush on your Samsung fridge. As long as it has a CPU, ZBrush will run on it. It's surprisingly performant. Is there a playlist about call-off brushes or covered on various streams? Nope. Everything. Yeah, I mean, I do stream about a bunch of stuff, but make no mistake, everything's probably better organized on my ArtStation page. So you can go to my ArtStation profile here, and it's a little bit easier to look at. And there's also some other goodies in there. So if you're like, okay, dynamic cloth, where is it? Well, that's what's new in ZBrush 2021. So you can click on this. These are all the videos up here in the corner, all the dynamic cloth stuff. And then there's other stuff in here. There's the live stream we did, you know, so everything on here that says what's new is going to be a list in order of all the new features in video form. And then same thing on my YouTube channel, on my playlists. So if you want to say, oh, what's all this NPR non-photorealistic rendering? What's that all about? That would be the 2019 playlist. And you can see all the new 2019 stuff that came out, and the project, the Spotlight 2.0 mesh creation stuff too. Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody. Keep it real. Hopefully that's enough of the new features. That's not everything. That's not everything. If we go through here quickly, let's hit the comma key. Let's go into project. When in doubt, I can just go into demo projects here, and I can just grab this frog. Thank you, Joseph Drust, I think. So we can go through here, and if we turn off solo mode, you're going to see we have this frog. Now, did they put it? You know, now I'm starting to get into stuff. Let's see. Geometry, masking, scan is occlusion intensity, aperture, see plugin, ambient. There it is. So ambient occlusion is also on here, so you can actually turn on occlusion volume, so it'll go through and look at all the other meshes in your scene, and will give you occlusion based on that at all. So it's going through there and giving me all my scene stuff here. There we go. Now that's, speaking of, let's go ahead and drag the Z plugin over here. So now when I put ambient occlusion, it's going to be a mask. So we can go through here and we can compute on my AO on here. If I want to see it better, I can go in here and say flat color, and then under preferences, edit, inactive subtool dimming. Nope, masked object dimming. I'm going to put that at 5. So it'll actually, oh, and let's turn off smooth. There we go. So now here's the ambient occlusion mask baked into our, it's not baked into our object, it's masked into our object here. So you can change the samples are okay to change, and it'll go through and it'll increase the quality. What I would be wary about changing is this resolution. That's the resolution of the other objects in your scene. If you turn off occlusion volume and then you compute, you're going to see, oh, the ball isn't going to be included in the occlusion. So if you do want that, you do want the occlusion volume turned on. It's going through and doing some stuff to make that occlusion volume available for AO for all the subtools. However, if you crank this up, it could take a long time. So I would leave that alone maybe. And then when we hit compute, now you're going to see that AO pops up on his tummy. And so now if you go into solo mode here, you can see there's his AO. So this is where we can go through here, obviously, and we'll go in here to basic, you know what, let's go in here to skin shader 4. So if in the ambient occlusion parts, again, it's just a mask, so you can turn off view mask if you don't want to see it, but it's still there. So if you want to control tap to invert that, you can go in here to color, and we can fill this in with like a dark blue green here, and we can say color, fill object. We can control tap to invert that, and we can maybe fill this area in with a lighter green, or you can even just paint. So now that that's masked, you can go through here and you can say RGB is turned on, and you can just start painting, and it will leave the other mask alone. So you know what, we'll do this. And if you don't want to see the mask on there, it's distracting or something, turn off view mask, and it'll still be there. It'll just allow you to kind of paint around it, I think. Is it? It's not super strong. Let me see. Yeah, it's still allowing me to get in there. It is a very soft mask, so maybe that's why. But anyway, that's how you can mask by ambient occlusion and use that to your advantage. Now remember, if we want to go through here, strip that RGB, let's see. So we have this here. If you want to, you can also, this is a 2020 update, I think. Go in here and say adjust colors, and now you can go through here, you can change the hue, overall hue of your poly paint. You can go through here and you can select different areas of your poly paint you want to change. That'll mask it out, and then we'll say then you can change just the hue on those things. So feel free, and you can also change the overall saturation and the intensity, all that stuff. So as you're doing hue shift, and let's go through here, let's do this. Sorry, I'm still getting good at that. There we go. So we got some stripes on here, and then we go in here and we say adjust colors. We can adjust again the overall colors, or we can just say, you know what, literally just let me pick these, and I only want to change those colors here. So now, there you go. Sharp edges with Match Extract. We already went over that. That's going to be earlier in the stream. Cool. Alrighty. Thanks again, everybody. Sorry, that was another tangent. There's other stuff in there. We just didn't have time. But again, I'll be dropping videos on YouTube, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And where's my OBS so I can kill this stream? Everybody have a good day.